Time for another episode of Circle of Trades. I'm Todd Studer. In studio today at the home studio is where he's at. It's Travis Waldstein, AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning, and Waldstein Plumbing. And you even got a little bit of a smokiness going up.
Yeah, I'm doing some paperwork this morning, and sometimes, it's either drink or smoke a cigar. it says it's too early in the morning to be drinking. I said, I'll just do a cigar. So
that makes sense. That makes sense. It's been, weather's been a little strange. Sounds like as we are recording this, and again, these come out later, but as we're recording this, looks like we're going to get our first significant snowfall of the season.
Yeah, so we're going to get an inch and a half of flurries. So don't worry. Jim Flowers is wrong all the time too. So
is that where it's at right now? The last time I looked, it said 3 to 4 inches.
You know what? Listen, yeah, we would. Yeah.
Oh, now it says less than an inch.
Yeah, I haven't heard. I don't care. I'm not too worried about it. So.
Wait a minute. Oh no, they moved it from Friday to Saturday. Now they're saying Saturday is 3 to 4 inches, which is a problem for me.
Oh, well, it's not for me because you know why? I'm going to be home enjoying my new kegerator of Swarm beer after a Hawkeye win. There you go. So, which that'll be outdid by the time this show.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see whether or not that holds up. It should, but we'll see. Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk a little business today because I know that. Well, at the risk of getting political, and people get weird about this kind of thing, but what's happening isn't a political issue with you; it's a business issue, and we've got all these new tariffs that have started. I mean, it's seriously affected your business. How much stuff typically would you be using equipment-wise that you had to have shipped in is now prices way higher because of the tariffs?
Oh, plumbing is absolutely terrible. I will tell you. Plumbing, as far as materials and valves and fittings, has almost doubled in price. Anything copper, anything brass related, anything, a lot of stuff used to be made in the States is now made in Japan. And yeah, it's unfortunately all that stuff has been affected. So, we've seen it. We're trying to I'm trying to get a job ordered. I finally got some metals back today or the other day, and I'm trying to get ordered today. And PTAC, what they're called PTAC units. They're through all wall units. Well, shoot, because of tariffs, they took a $50,000 price increase. My root equipment took a $10,000 increase. Now, you look at the quantity of it. And, quantities, I mean, we're not talking one or two, we're talking, 100 units, et cetera. So, yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, and it costs, and you have to pass it on to the consumer. You don't have a choice in the matter. And so, if you're lucky the car came in or your stuff came in before the tariffs hit, great. But, you sit 6 months on a project or 3 months and, Trump's talking about sending back $2,000. Well, guess what? So you've probably paid for that $2,000. You just don't know it yet. So,
sure.
Just in the tariffs. I mean, the government does nothing for free. If you're going to tell me that, don't kid yourself. So, but you have to be realistic for what it is and know, here's where things are going to be on the project. And, welcome to small business, if you know what I'm saying. And it's everything from fuel to you name it across the boards, but any of your materials, any of your commodities, and of course the commodities are a traded market. I mean, if you're in a scrap market, copper right now is over was it our copper Schedule A and Schedule B is up over $4 a pound. We got a call from the Council Bluffs Police Department last week about a rash of air conditioners that had been stolen, because people cut them apart and get the $50 to $75 worth of aluminum rad coils out of it, So you're talking equipment that costs you $1,000, maybe $2,000 to buy, and the thieves are stealing it for $50 worth of copper. But unfortunately, that's what prices force certain people to do, and it sucks. It really sucks. But what do you do? I mean, You know,
I think, and I don't have any knowledge on this, but my opinion would be that start having some checks and balances of the people that are buying this stuff. A lot of times salvage yards are the ones that are buying it. I remember years and years ago, my brother and I were still teenagers, I think, and my dad was working for a place that was building medical clinics, and he brought home some scrap pieces of cable, not long, that maybe 18 inches or something like that, nothing that they could use. And he said, you boys strip that casing off of there and take it up to the salvage yard. You can get money for what's in there. So we did that, and we came home with several $100s, and it really wasn't that much. And back then, this was the 80s. That was huge dollars to us.
Oh,
we just hit the lottery.
Yep.
And Dad said, I remember Dad saying, if I'd have known it had been that much, I'd have done it myself.
Yeah.
But
well, it sucks to be him. So.
But again, I mean, this is, you go back that far, and there are places they put it on a scale, and then they pay you for it. I think that just like it has happened at pawn shops, if you're selling something, you got to leave your thumbprint.
Yeah. Scrap yards. I mean, they'll tell you now, there's like manhole covers. For a while, there's people steal manhole covers in Omaha and take them to the scrap yards. And so and of course, most of the scrap yards are in Omaha, but there is two one in Car Lake, one in Counts Bluffs. But basically, I think both states had like pass an ordinance that says you can't, things you can't accept in a scrap hole cover and for a scrap metal is his manhole covers, because literally the manhole covers be gone, someone make $20 off of it. Johnny be walking down the street and fall 15 foot into the street. It sounds funny until you're the guy falling in that hole.
That's true.
It's not a very good time. So,
what has been
responsible for it?
What's been the response from people as you talk to them about the new price increases, and they were expecting one thing, and they say, well, here's what's actually happening. What feedback have you been getting from folks?
We've got a lot of feedback actually, as far as that goes. Lots of feedback on it, especially on the plumbing side. When you go to price out a project, and all of a sudden, the price they had 2 years ago was $4,000, and now it's $8,000 for the same fixtures, same whatever, and it's so between inflation, and the price of the dollar, listen, no one's going to accuse me of being the guy at Creighton that does all the that economics 101, but I mean, listen, it all affects what we do. And so you talk to customers, says, listen, this price to do business. Now you can take a chance and it might be cheaper in a year, but realistically, probably not going to be cheaper in a year, if you know what I'm saying. So, go look at vehicles today. Of course, during COVID, they were extremely high, but even vehicles today aren't cheap. You used to be a top of line pickup 5-10 years ago, it's 50 grand. Well, now you're going to spend 100 grand on the same vehicle. Is it a better built? No. Is it got more newer features? Yeah. Is there more stuff that could break? Yeah. But if you want to drive something that's really nice, you're going to have to spend the money, or you're going to have to, I hate to say settle for less, but but it's that way with a lot of things, it's one of them deals, especially with us, we're in a needs business, but plumbing is something people like to have nice bathrooms, nice showers, nice whatever. And unfortunately, it's one of them deals to where we have to we just have to be transparent for what it is. So I can't go back and, that's why we put prices only good for 30 days. Most places right now, when it comes to copper and brass, they'll say price is good the day it was quoted. And you come back tomorrow, it might be a different price.
Has to be, yeah.
That has to be, or the price jumped X number of dollars in 2 hours. That's kind of how volatile some of these markets are. And the only way to protect yourself is to put them parameters in place. And there's nothing illegal about it. I mean, you can't force a guy to take a loss on something. You can't do it and stay in business. So,
yeah, it's the reality of the way things are right now. And will these tariffs stay in place at the level that they're at? I don't think it's intended to be that way, but also we're not moving them. There's kind of a no surrender, no retreat mode going on right now. So,
well, here's the thing you got to remember, over since the 80s, it seems like, we've had factory job after factory job that have left the U.S. They've went to Mexico, they've went to China, they've went to Korea. In the 80s, Japan was our biggest whatever because Japan was taking over the world. Now it's China, and China's got 1 billion people, and everybody wants to buy consumer electronics, and everybody wants to buy this stuff. So part of it, it's supply and demand. But I think part of what they're trying to do, and I actually agree with this, is I would love to see more productivity or more production being brought back in country instead of being overseas. Being a world economy sounds great until you can't get parts for your toilet for 3 months because the parts are in China and the parts are sitting 10 miles off the coast of the United States because the boat's going to have to write a check for $3 million for taxes, for tariffs just to unload the boat. And that's literally some of what's going on right now. So, where if that stuff is made in the States, you're not having to deal with it. So
I remember talking with an international shipper that we have here locally, and he was telling me that, well, and this was back during COVID, the issue was all of these storage containers that everything was coming over on, they didn't have the platforms, the axles, and the things to set those on in order to truck them. Mm-hmm. There wasn't enough of those. Mm-hmm. And there were just stacks and stacks and stacks of shipping containers that were everywhere. Now it's not even getting to shore.
Yeah. Although we got Jesus. I got 2 here at my place. My son's got 2 of them. The other thing is you can buy them now. I mean, if you actually buy a shipping container, they're actually pretty solid. I mean, if you need, we made a chicken house out of one of ours. I mean, and it's pretty nice chicken house. I call it the Chicken Taj Mahal. You can do a lot of stuff with them shipping containers, and they're cheap. It's you can't build it with lumber for the price of what you can buy it, and it's all steel and it's weather tight. So
no, there's a coffee shop in Underwood that's how it was built.
Yep. I think it's changed hands now, but I think Jody Bose, I think, used to own that. So that sounds right. So. But,
well, do you have an answer for it, or are you just riding the wave here?
Well, unfortunately, if I had an answer for it, I'd have done fixed it already. So, no, I just get to have the pleasant conversation. I can't wait till I have this conversation today. So that's kind of what I'm going through and taking a look at right now. And so we're going to have a discussion. It's like anything else. I mean, we're have to increase some prices here after the first year too, just because of change. Mm-hmm. What affects all the wages going up too. I mean, which I don't blame anybody. They talk about the industry. There's a lot of people in this industry who start making $100,000 a year. That sounds great, and it's good for the industry per se, but the flip side to that is it costs more to get a tech out to your home. Plus, I hate to say it, with inflation and everything else that's happening in the country, the dollar's not what it was worth 20 years ago. I mean, you could buy for $100,000 back in 2000, you can't buy nearly as much in 2025 with it. That's the reality of it. So, so the bigger numbers sound better, but you know what I'm saying? So you have to, have to make, you have to work with it, if you know what I'm saying. So
everything is going to go up. I mean, if one category raises, it's not as if, hey, I suddenly have more discretionary income. No, it doesn't work that way. And it just makes everything go up at the same time. Now I'm not a financial guy. I'm not an economist. I'm definitely not a politician.
You're not Ernie Goss. You're not Ernie Goss, son. You're not Jim Flowers either. So you can't do the weather. You can't do economics. So we'll knock them 2 out right away. So
no. So it's what the answers are, I don't know, but I can see problems and I can see things that are happening. And if somebody's got plumbing issues, it's not as if they can't do it. Mm-hmm. It has to be done. So it's when then things start to affect other areas.
Just costs more. It
Yeah.
just costs more. Period. There's nothing you can do about it. But
Well, that was a 15 minutes of wonderful news. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet. Just make everybody's day. Nothing says coming into a holiday, because by the time this comes out, it'll be after Thanksgiving. Then it'll be "quote unquote" holiday season. And by the way, my wife will have Christmas stuff. If you ask me, like I say we'll hang it up on the 23rd and have it down on the 26th. So that's my whatever with it. So
yeah, well, that's I'm assuming that when you had young kids, that doesn't work very well. And you got two grandkids. You got grandkids now.
I got grandkids, but you know what? They're 18 months old. You know what? They're going to look at Santa and they're going to say, "Hey, there's a big guy," and then they're going to take a look. He says he's kind of big like Santa. He just doesn't have the beard. It's all one and the same. So I could be jolly with or without a holiday. So.
Put the twinkling lights in. That'll keep them distracted for a while.
Yeah, there you go. Make sure you give a lot of loud toys. So it's all good. So.
I'm assuming that, and again, this coming out afterwards, I'm assuming you're going to be in Lincoln for the game.
Does a fat kid like cake? Yes, I will be in Lincoln for the game. So,
are you going to be surrounded by like-minded individuals, or are you diving straight into the heart of the enemy?
Well, let's see here. So far this year, let's talk about some of my games this year. So, had my cousin get mad at me after the Iowa State game because Iowa set football back 50 years and made Iowa State look terrible, even though they won. Which that really made me happy afterwards. I was mad they lost, but it's like, well, you know what? If it pissed off a Cyclone fan that bad, is great. So, watch the Indiana deal. Watch the Oregon deal. Watch some of the ones in between. Had some guy get mad at me in the bathroom line at Oregon here 2 weeks ago, and he started poking me in the eye because I cut in line. I'm like, dude, there was nobody freaking behind me. You got in line. And this other guy started pushing me, and I said, guys, number one, I didn't know you're potty patrol. Number one. And I said, number two, I said, you're about one more touch from getting knocked on your ass. Yeah. And he goes, yeah, you cut line. It's like, no, I didn't. So, and my kid's like, there, and the other guy's like, that's right next to me. He says, well, I don't know what they're talking about. I said, I don't know. So they said, we're old guys. We don't, like I said, we need to get to the bathroom as fast as we can. Because I'm with you, brother. I said, thank you. I appreciate that. So,
yeah, the window of forgiveness is not nearly as big as you get older.
No, it's not. And then, of course, leaving that game, I had some guy from Sioux City sideswipe my truck. So that was great. It was sitting in a parked line, and he didn't think I got his license. And so now I'm dealing with an insurance agency that might have farm in their name, but it's not the Bureau Farm. It's another farm. So might have to do something with the state of Iowa or just state generally, farm state or something like that.
The opinions expressed are strictly those of Travis Waldstein, and not affiliated with anything that has to do with Les Hills Media
and podcasts. You are 100% right. So they had been at fault. The guy had been at fault. The guy's license plate number, but then I got a price from where I bought the truck from the dealership. It's still under warranty, and they're wanting to argue with me about going over the cut rate. Dealerships or cut rate, Billy Bob's, whatever. And so I'm like, well, your guy hit my truck. It was a hit and run. So, if I wanted to be a real jerk, I could press charges against guy. I'm not. I just don't want my truck fixed. And I don't want to jerk around with dealing with your dealer. I've already went to my body shop where I bought the truck, and that's where it's going to go. If you got a problem with that, I'll let my insurance company get involved, and we can fight this out. So that was that. So it'll be interesting. So see, 5 years ago, I was walking up the South Stadium in Lincoln, which is the worst place in the world to watch or visit a football game because it got the cattle chute. So we can talk about that. I mean, it's literally a cattle chute to get them in the stadium. So and there's somebody yelled at me, and I knew who it was. I said hi. I turned back around, and of course the aisles are like really narrow. There's this Husker fan that's halfway out the aisle. Well, I just barreled his ass over. I make no bones about it. I just didn't mean to. I'm so sorry. he goes, I said, got distracted seeing a friend. My wife was with me. And the guy goes, "You want to fight?" And he started getting mad. I'm like, "Well, if you want to," I said, "It's not that big of a deal. I could take an Uber from Lincoln to Council Bluffs." He didn't know what to say after that. He just went up in there. See, I think I got called a buffoon for yelling for the Hawks during that game. So, and then 2 years ago, we're down there, and I was walking along, and I had some guy come up and get in my face because he thought I burped on his wife. I didn't burp at all. It was my kid that was 3 foot behind me. So, but I supposedly burped, and this guy that was about 5 foot nothing, wanted to take me on, and yeah, so it's been interesting. So maybe staying out of jail. And I'm not going looking for a fight, folks. I'm really not. I'm there to have a good time, cheer my team on. I'm not looking for a fight, but obviously there's some people that don't have a lot of patience, and that's okay. It is what it is. So
I remember going back to when Nebraska joined the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And it was all over the sports media channels back then, especially the ones in Omaha, about who is going to be Nebraska's new rival, because now they're not playing Oklahoma every year. They're not playing Colorado every year.
It wasn't going to be Iowa.
It's not going to be Iowa, because Iowa's not good enough. It's going to have to be Wisconsin. And that was the one they decided. Wisconsin's going to be Nebraska's rival.
And they're about right.
And it stayed that way. And I don't remember what year it was, but it was like 6-7 years after that. I'm listening to a local sports radio show, and they are talking with a Wisconsin beat writer, which would make good sense. Hey, let's learn about Wisconsin. And I remember the host saying, "Hey, does Wisconsin feel about this game like Nebraska does? Like this is the big rivalry game and all of that?" And the guy just very calmly said, "If Nebraska wants Wisconsin to think of this game as a rivalry, Nebraska needs to start winning it." Because they hadn't. And
still have it.
So, and that's what, but it used to be Iowa, Minnesota. It used to be that was the game. I mean, obviously Iowa State, but that was pretty one-sided for a long time. And it was always Iowa, Minnesota. But it has turned into Nebraska, and that is the rivalry game. And I personally, even with Iowa having won 9 of the last 10 years, I think that I would put that rivalry up towards the top of a lot of different ones.
Yeah.
You look at it doesn't have the long-term history of Alabama, Auburn, or Ohio State, Michigan. Yeah. But when you talk about the emotion and the passion that's behind it, yeah, I think it is.
All you gotta do is go look at Sean Smith's Facebook page. He's got a great old big old red big N that says "Beat Iowa" on it. So so oh yeah, don't worry, it's a and listen, for me, yeah, Nebraska. I don't know. So the Wisconsin rivalry, but I like Wisconsin. I do like Wisconsin fans. I had a fun time in Madison. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, so I could easily live in Wisconsin and I'd be okay with it. So, and even be a Hawkeye fan to live in Wisconsin. Living down here, and I've lived down here for 30 years. It's gotten better. I mean, when I moved down here in the 90s, the Husker fans were so myopic that it just, yeah. I used to believe it or not, there was a time that I kind of liked Nebraska, but not my favorite team. I was always been an Iowa fan, but it's like, okay, Nebraska's okay. They're better than Iowa State, blah, 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 blah. Then I moved down here, and it took me about 45 days to get really sick of Husker fans. So, and it's like, what? Since Nebraska playing Florida State, go Noles. Nebraska's playing Notre Dame. I could name both lose, but I guess if I can choose one, I'll choose Notre Dame. I'm going to hurt some feelings here. I don't care, but it's definitely changed over the years. Probably the biggest thing is Sean Eichhorst about 10 years ago basically called up Kirk Ferentz on his manhood and said, when they fired Pelini after Nebraska came back and won at Iowa City and they kicked up Pearsonell twice, I still remember that. I could see the kickoff, to see the lane. It's kind of like the lane that opened for Weegan last year versus Iowa State. It's like, yep, you can see this coming from a mile away and it's not going to be good. And that was, and he fired him. And ever since that, Kirk has taken this, I think, pretty personal.
Mm-hmm.
And, as far as the game, as far as the fans goes, he's well aware. I mean, we went and saw him in April. We won a deal here in town. I think I've talked about that before. I talked about Kirk and I said, listen, us living on the western edge of the state having a deal. He goes, oh, I'm very well aware. He goes, I'm very well aware about that. So, you go to the northern part of state Minnesota, but Minnesota just has not been great. Wisconsin's been good, but that rivalry's kind of turned. Iowa doesn't play Illinois. Iowa used to play Illinois. If you live over in Davenport, they hate Illinois,
Mm-hmm.
So I think it depends on where you're at in the state. But, Nebraska is one of the, it had been a national brand for a long time. There's a lot of money in Nebraska. I would never argue that with the program and the facilities and what they've done, and good for them. But, they've just, I mean, as far as the rivalry goes, it's changed. They went from, what was it, Pelini, and they fired him, and then to Mike Riley, and then to Scott Frost, and then they had the one game wonder that actually beat us 3 years ago, and after they fired Scott Frost, was it Mickey Joseph or who was it? That was their coach, I think. And then now we've got Matt Rule. Matt Rule's supposed to have 10 wins and play for the Big Ten title game this year. Well, shit, they could finish 7-5 after Saturday or after Friday. And so, yeah, I mean, if you're Nebraska and you still remember the '90s. I still remember that a little bit about the '90s too. Guess what? It's not the '90s anymore. There's some stuff that was great about the '90s. There's some stuff that kind of sucked about the '90s.
And I mean, there's part of the coaching staff wasn't alive for that.
Oh God, no. Well, here's the deal. I mean, the thing about it, I got twin boys that are 28 years old, Harley and Hayden. You know what? I mean, they were born in 1997. That was the last time Nebraska paid for a national. You know what they don't remember? They don't remember anything about it. And of course, in my house, I would have turned the channel anyway, unless they're losing. Then I might have watched Nebraska. But that's the last time, and so you go 30 years old. So if you're a fan and if you're from Nebraska and you're a fan, great, you should be a fan. I would not knock anybody for that. Or if you got ties to the university, it is what it is. But if you assume it just because you're Nebraska, the '90s are coming back, I said, this isn't the Big 8, this isn't the Big 12, this is the Big 10. And, you're not the big kid on the block anymore, unfortunately. If you want to stay the big kid on the block, you probably should have stayed in the Big 12. And, they chose to leave because they couldn't get along with Texas. But now you got Ohio State, you got Michigan, you got Penn State. You got them big three right there. Not to mention your own backyard, you got Wisconsin and Iowa. I mean, Nebraska's a great volleyball school. I mean, if you're a volleyball fan, fantastic. I mean, Nebraska volleyball's kick ass. I would not argue that for a minute. But if you're talking football, which football pays the bills, it's been tough since about 2001. When you got blew out, I see you lost to Colorado, you got blew out by Miami in the national championship game. So, and Bob Bruce said on the radio as a Hawkeye fan and basically chastised Husker fans after that loss.
Bob Bruce, yeah, that was a name I haven't heard for a couple of years. We'll just. I'm not going to say anything else about that, but
yeah, he rubbed a lot of Nebraska fans wrong. It's okay. So,
well, and but he's rubbed other people. He's rubbed Hawkeye fans wrong too.
Yeah, that too. He's rough around the edges, kind of like me some days. Kind of rough around the edges.
Yeah, that's true. Who am I to say? Now, I think that, like you said, I don't know that a return to that level as possible. But it's hard to say. I mean, you can talk about the region of the country we live in. Well, Columbus, Ohio isn't very warm.
Yeah.
and they stay pretty competitive. I will say, I mean, the Nebraska fan base is very, very passionate. And however, they also tend to quit on teams. And it depends on what happened the previous Saturday as to whether or not things are, we're finally back or more of the same.
Yeah.
After Nebraska lost the last game, then it was, it's just, here we are again and woe is us. And like, and, there's somebody who was just making I saw it online, and it was an obvious Nebraska fan, and he was a podcaster saying that Nebraska is always better than Iowa because Nebraska will not settle for anything less than a national championship. Really? Because I have been around you watching games, and you're sarcastic when you cheer. So let's not go there.
Here's what I'm going to tell you about college experience. Listen, my son went to Iowa. Son Harley went to Iowa, and we went to, this is 2019 Iowa Wisconsin game. It was a huge night game. Our kick returner fumbled the ball twice, and we ended up losing the game by it was the Wisconsin score wasted. It'd be a 10, but it was close till the end. But it was kind of we had a kick return called back, and then we fumbled 2 others. So our kicking game, our special teams were not special. So it's kind of like LC versus Glenwood this year. The special teams were not special that night. So, and I love Lewis Central, but sometimes you got to call it for what it is. So, but we were sitting there and we went to Poncheros after the game, and Tristan Wirfs come walking in. Now everybody knows Tristan Wirfs just signed the biggest NFL contract in NFL history. Mount Pleasant kid, wrestled from high school. He's the same age as Harley. He's in a class with Harley. So he's riding his slope head because all the kids, college kids in Iowa City have slope heads. He comes in, he's digging out $2 and change. I'm like, I want to help him. I said, I'd pay for the damn thing, but I don't want to cause an NCAA violation. And I said, hey, can I help you? But I said, I don't want to create an NCAA violation. No, can't do that. I said, okay. So, and he could tell he was dejected. I mean, they wanted to win. And you looked at him, and just a baby-faced 19-year-old kid, just like my son Harley was. And so, you can be mad and all pissed off and, they play for Nebraska and this and that. I said, they're not 50-year-old men that are out there playing that game. They are young adults, kids that, and I tell this with my apprentices that walk in all the time that are new. 18 and 23-year-olds are going to do stupid things. And when you do stupid things, you have to, if it's egregious enough, you can't overlook it. But for the most part, we've all been there. Some have got caught, some haven't got caught. But, you kind of tell it, it's a kid's game they play. There's a lot of money involved with it. But, and now you can say, well, the kids get paid to play. Well, for a long, long, long time, they did not get paid to play. And even the ones that get played, guess what? They're still them 18 to 23-year-old kids. And so, you want to play for your school, you want to play for your teammates. And if you're not there to win, but we've seen that at all levels of sports, if you're not there to win, then why are you out there? See the guy that signs a $100 million NFL contract and then he never plays again. Well, what the hell's the point? You know what I'm saying? So that really changed my perspective as far as the kids side of it. As far as them playing the game, as far as the fans go, fans are fans. I'm one of them fans too. I mean, if it comes back to Nebraska, if you're to ask me, my opinion is when Solich went 7-7 in 2002, I believe it was, because they lost to Iowa State that year. I remember that. So Iowa State was like 7-1, and they beat Iowa, they beat Nebraska, and Nebraska, and it's like, the athletic director said, we can't do this at Nebraska. That's not our standard to the program. Well, did they not know? So, Solich made changes and he improved the program. I mean, they got better. They won 2 more games the next year and they had progress. And, but it wasn't good enough for Nebraska. Well, they made the change, because that's when they went to, good old offensive line coach Bill Callahan, great offensive line coach, terrible NFL coach, or head football coach. Could recruit, couldn't do anything with the talent when he got on campus, and then you kind of start going through, the Mike Rileys and the Scott Frosts, and it's kind of be careful what you wish for, because a wrong hire, could absolutely kill a program. What if Iowa hired Bob Stoops in 1999? Everybody assumes he'd have won a national championship in year two. Guess what? Oklahoma has a lot bigger recruiting ground being 3 hours from Dallas than what you do in Iowa City. And there's a lot more football athletes, I would say, in Texas than there is in Illinois. So it's probably not winning you a national title. Do I love everything that Kirk does? No. I like the offense better than it was, but I'm still mad about it. So I think you have to be careful what you wish for. Nebraska has spent so much time chasing that magic ball, where I think the best thing to do is be the best version of you and be consistent and stay consistent. That's why I think it's really important that if Matt Rule sticks around, I think Matt Rule could honestly turn the program. Will they win a national championship? No. Could they contend for the Big Ten? Yeah. I'd rather have Iowa and Nebraska play 10-2 for a chance to go to the Big Ten championship than beat a 3-9, 56-14 down in Lincoln. Although that was a lot of fun, I have to admit. That was a fantastic game. But you understand what I'm saying? When we beat them in 2016 at Kinnick 40-10, Nebraska came in, they were 9-2. They came in, and Iowa was 7-4. And Iowa just blew the doors off them that night, and but when you take a look at it, when you really look at the programs with what they're doing, I think you have to stay consistent. Now, that doesn't mean you have to stick around for 27 years like Kirk. I think you do outlive your welcome. And after 10 to 12 years, it's probably time for a change. The message gets old, the fans get tired of it. I think there's some atrophy that happens. And I mean, frankly, if you look at Iowa athletics the last 20 years, they're kind of going through that change now. Basketball, women's basketball, wrestling, they're going to go through. At some point, Kirk's going to retire. I think Kirk's going to be around for another 3 years. Everybody's like, he's getting close to retirement. I says, he's still enjoying what he's doing. He's healthy. His wife likes it. I don't think Kirk's going anywhere for another 3 years. And so, Nebraska, they just need Rule to stick around and continue to improve the program, and be careful. They want it off. They want certain coaches gone. Be careful with that, because I wanted George Barnett gone in 21-23 because Iowa's offense was dog shit and their offensive line was horrible. But then George Barnett, found out that Tim, the head coach of North Dakota State, Polasek, basically ran off all the good linemen. They had 2 recruiting classes where they got nothing out of the offensive linemen. Well, that can set a program back years. So if you're running off offensive linemen, or if you're just a bad human, or you got someone on staff that's not what your program's about, you make them changes, but that doesn't mean you change over the whole coaching staff. I think you have to continue to work, continue to evolve. Iowa's probably got one of the top 5 offensive line in 2025. If you'd have told me in 2022 they were going to be the top 5 in the country, I'd have said you're freaking high. Logan Jones was young. Bo Stevens couldn't block a freaking napkin. Jennings Dunker was just a big guy with orange hair. And you look at him now, plus Trevor Locke, you tailored their offensive line across the board. There's probably all 5 of them are going to get a chance to play on Sunday, and their backups are probably there's some good backups there too. So that's why I said with football, that's all about consistency, building the approach. If Rule sticks around, I think Nebraska can do it, but they're going to have to. Nebraska fans are going to learn to be patient. You know what Nebraska fans are not good at?
Yeah, that's very true.
Being patient. I'm sorry, and it sucks. It sucks, but if you're not patient, you have to. Sometimes you have to trust the guy at the helm. You may not like what he's doing, but knee-jerk reactions in business and in life and sports is never a good thing, if you know what I'm saying.
I take a look at the Matt Rule hire several years ago, and to me, this was the first time that over the last decade that Nebraska hasn't made some impulse decision that takes them in the exact opposite direction of what they saw the problems were. You look at what was happening with Bo Pelini, and Pelini was on Pelini that he couldn't win the big game, and also that he was a hothead. So, and they just, we can't have somebody ranting and raving like that on the sideline. So what do? They go out and they get Mike Riley, who is one of the most passive guys you've ever seen.
Oh, if you move him here and he got players, he'll do so much better. No, he moves it here and he made Nebraska Oregon State is what he did.
Right. So. And that's what happened. So now you take a look and, we got to get somebody in here that understands Nebraska football. Has to be Nebraska football. So they go out and they get Scott Frost. And Scott Frost, who at the time that he got hired, had about a 500 record. Now, he was in the middle of an undefeated season at Central Florida. But at that point, and I made a joke online, after that hire happened, said, why don't you wait till he comes and wins a few games before you build the statue? Oh, that set Nebraska fans off. They were not happy with me at all. That, why don't you pay attention to your own team and this, that, and okay, that's fine.
3 years later.
Yeah, and 3 years later, because, right, because Scott Frost never really took ownership of that team.
He lost to Bethune-Cookman, damn it. How the hell do you lose Bethune-Cookman?
But he, all the time when you'd see talking about a loss in a post-game conference, he'd use the word they all the time, talking about his own team. Mm-hmm. And when they got Matt Rule doesn't do that.
No, he doesn't.
Rule owns the wins, and he gives the wins to the players and he owns the losses himself. And to me, that's what a leader does. Oh. And I'm watching, after they went out and got hammered by Penn State, and he said, we can't think about this. We have to let this go. And press doesn't want to hear that because they want the sound bites. But he's right. And he wasn't talking to the press and he wasn't talking to the fans. He was talking to his players. And to me, that is a sign that things are headed in the right direction for Nebraska. It's just not moving fast enough for everybody.
I heard something. I actually listened to part of his press conference. I don't listen to Matter, but I did, yes, because it's Iowa week. Minnesota did this year too, and we can talk about the Iowa-Minnesota game if you want, but pretty much that was a really one-sided ball game, by the way. So, where we freaking throttled their asses, but yeah, Paul John Fleck sucks, by the way. But Minnesota was doing 42 push-ups and all this other stuff because that's how they got beat the year before. Then they came in and they laid an absolute egg versus Iowa. I heard Rule talk yesterday, and he did not sound, in my mind, like a confident. I've heard a few of his other. He did not sound over. Now they said that. Listen, the Iowa game has been circled on their schedule. I have no doubt about it. His athletic director Troy Dannon and everybody else has said, and I get it, 100% get it. But they've circled this game on the schedule, and they said they put a lot of time in the off season towards this game. That could be good, that could be bad. So I think it said, do I think Nebraska be ready to play Friday? Yeah. What are they able to do? I don't know. I mean, last year they were up 10-0 at halftime, and Iowa looked like a dread offense in the second quarter. Nebraska forgot to tackle, how to tackle, and the game changed. And so, it's a rivalry game, but I don't know. I just think Nebraska, Nebraska have a hard time, and probably until they do win a couple in this series. They won in 22, I believe, with Mickey Joseph as their, acting head coach, whatever. But Nebraska probably does need to win one or two to bring it back more to where it's a rivalry. Not that I don't consider Nebraska a rival, but it'd be a lot more fun just for the banter back and forth. I don't think it'll go back to being one-sided. I just don't see that. It's been one-sided score-wise, but it has been one-sided on the field. If you watch the games, it's kind of, but but rules got to be timed. Here's the other thing, they talk about the Rayolas. The one kid, the younger brother of Mahomes Jr. is going to not come to Nebraska.
Yeah.
There's rumors. You know what? Here's the deal. You got to have kids want to be in the program. You have one bad year, get hurt, you see someone else come in and do well, and you want to leave. I mean, so my question is, where is the kid's commitment to the program? And so, not that kids don't leave Iowa, because there's some that do. I get if they feel they can get, but Sullivan went down to be the starting quarterback at Tulane, and then the quarterback for BYU tried knocking up his girlfriend who was supposed to be selling it, and then it ended up at Tulane. I mean, that's what happened. I mean, it's and Sullivan ended up not being the starting quarterback. He went down there to play, and things happen.
Here, I thought you were going to talk about Rudock, but no.
Well, yeah, right. Like I said, no. But I mean, that's what I said. Kids do crazy things. So if you get a better opportunity to play, but if you're Raiola, what are you chasing? Okay, you want to win. You want to win it all. Okay, learn how to move your feet a little bit. You got an arm. Learn how to move your feet and be a little bit faster in decision making. You might be someone worth talking about, if you know what I'm saying. So, so that's my thought on it. It's still Nebraska.
Yeah. Well,
and for what it is.
Regarding all of that stuff, somebody else had said this. It's not my idea, but I agreed with it when I heard it, that if you want to go into the portal, you can't take NIL money. And if you get one or the other, if you've taken money from the college in NIL, which by the name, image, and likeness, it's not about that. It's just we're giving you money. That's all that it is. And if you take the money, then you have to stay. That's my opinion. I'm not. Nobody's given me a vote in it, but there has to be some checks and balances with all of this. And right now, it's a free for all. And young people, as you said, you're talking about at most a 23 or 24-year-old. Oftentimes, they're still 19 and 20. They don't know how to handle that kind of money. And it is causing huge problems. And it's a revolving door. And plus, when you open up that window for the portal during bowl season, well, how are you supposed to keep teams together to go play in a bowl game? You can't.
Yeah, it's tough.
So I think we're seeing the end of bowl games. I think it's just going to do nothing but turn into the same thing that NCAA basketball is, where you've got a giant tournament and everybody just goes into it, and bowl games won't mean anything anymore. Mm-hmm. Used to be huge. I still remember sitting and watching the 82 Peach Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that was Tennessee.
That was Tennessee. Yeah. Yep. And Iowa ended up winning by 4. I remember seeing the peach on the shoulder pads, thinking that Iowa had a good season. They're playing in the Peach Bowl. This means something. Yeah. And it just doesn't anymore.
It's changed. It's changed 100%. 100%.
All right. So there you go. We've solved the world's problems.
Yeah, there you
Moral
go.
of the story, fix the tariffs.
Just remember, GBR doesn't mean go big red. It means gets beat regularly. So,
yeah, my answer to go big red was always yes, please go.
Please go. There you go. Yeah, I told one of the gals in the chamber, I said I'd get her gets beat regularly shirt. So she politely declined that shirt. I can't imagine why. So.
All right. Well, sir, grateful as always for your time. And, we're hoping that all of this smack talk that we just did holds up.
Oh, and to my Vikings fans, the two that are out there might be listening to it. Skull. I don't know if you saw that the other day when they started doing the Viking skull deal after.
Well.
I'm having a pretty good time with that with my brother-in-law. He's like, shut the hell up.
Hey, I remember watching Weegan do that rowboat thing in the end zone after he ran a punt back was hilarious. Mm-hmm. So it's all there. All right. Thank you, sir. And thank you for watching this episode of Circle of Trades. Back with another very soon. Until then, take care.